Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. We haven't done a Sunday technical analysis video in quite some time. I had some time today, so I figured let's go ahead and jump on here and get ready for next week. Let's prepare by looking at the futures first. Let's look at the NASDAQ, the ES, get an idea of the overall trend on the market and what we should be watching into next week. After we look at the overall market, I want to focus on three different sectors. The first sector we're going to look at is the tech sector, and I'm going to highlight a few stocks that I believe still have more downside into next week, as long as this trend on the tech sector continues to the downside. After we look at tech, I want to focus on energy, the XLE ETF, the ETF that tracks energy stocks. I want to look at that. I want to show you guys a few stocks that I believe you can play to the upside. As long as this price of oil continues higher, I believe the energy sector should continue as well into next week. Finally, I want to talk about the consumer staples, the XLP. We are on the verge of a very big breakout, in my opinion, on the XLP, the consumer staple stocks. As you guys know, I have two swing trades, Walmart and Procter & Gamble. I am still holding them. Walmart has turned green for me. Procter & Gamble is still lagging a little bit to the downside, but I believe there is a potential breakout on this sector into next week, and I want to go ahead and show it to you guys today, so maybe you and I can get ahead of this potential move. So with that said, let's go ahead and review all these sectors today, get ready for next week, prepare ourselves. I hope you guys do enjoy today's video. If you guys enjoyed the Sunday technical videos, they are back. Press the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and jump into this. All right, guys, so this is going to be a heavy technical analysis video, so sit back, relax, let's review some charts, get ready for next week. First chart we're looking at here is the NASDAQ, the daily chart on the NASDAQ. We'll start at the daily, we'll break it down a little bit more in depth in just a little bit. So, NASDAQ daily chart, the first thing I want to point out is the 20 SMA. This is the blue line right here that you guys can see. The 20 SMA and the recent trend has been very, very strong. You can see every time that we have pushed into the 20 SMA over the last 2 months, we have rejected that level. One time here, another time right here, and recently, just on Thursday of last week, we rejected it again. So this 20 SMA is going to be a guideline for me into the near future. If I see the market continue to reject this 20 SMA, I am going to continue to believe that there is weakness here on the tech sector. Until I see that line break, until I see this market recover that 20 and push back above it, I think we have a very easy way to just continue to look for the downside, just using that 20 SMA as your guide. We have seen it continue to reject. That is a short-term trend, and we can see that it is happening. So 20 SMA, first thing we are watching. As long as that rejects, we're looking for downside. Where do I believe this market can come back down to? It does seem to me that the market is probably wanting to come back down to this $13,000 level on the NASDAQ. This is a previous support level from back in May. We went ahead and touched it on that really ugly day because of some of that Russia-Ukraine news, that big downside move we saw. We came back and tested that 13,000. And if this trend continues like we are seeing right now, I have to believe that we are coming in for another 13,000 retest here on the market. You can see every push is getting sold into, push, selling into, push, selling into, push, and it looks like this move is currently getting sold into. So my best guess right now, guys, obviously I can't read the future, but my best guess right now is another 20 SMA rejection, and we come back down to retest this 13,000. If that is true, I believe there will be some more downside on tech next week if we continue this same momentum. Of course, guys, like every other week, the market is being heavily driven by Russia-Ukraine news. So if we see anything positive out of there, ceasefire, agreement talk, something that is positive out of that, maybe there is a harsh reaction that changes this trend. That is always possible with anything in the stock market. We always have to be aware of really quick knee-jerk reactions due to headline risk. But if everything continues as it is right now, we get more upside on oil, we continue to see tensions out of Russia-Ukraine, then I believe you continue to slip here into this $13,000 level. Not sure when, but it does look like the market is wanting to retest that level, see if there is support there once again. So that's the overall top line view for you guys on the NASDAQ. That's what it's looking like to me. 20 SMA rejections, and the next heavy support level looks to be 13,000. There is definitely some room here, if the market continues to be weak, to see that slip into 13. So that's the NASDAQ, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into the ES. Here is the ES, and it looks very similar to me. You guys can see 20 SMA continues to reject on the ES, the S&P 500. Rejection here, rejections here, rejection here, and last week of Thursday, we rejected it once again. So the 20 SMA looks to be in charge here on both the NASDAQ and the ES. 20 SMA is the level to watch. We can see that downside support seems to come in right around 42.50. And if we continue to see downside on the market next week, I think you are going to want to come back down and test that 42.50 level, similar to that $13,000 level on the NASDAQ. That's the level to watch. You can see support, 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 and once again, support. If we come back down to that 42.50, it's going to be interesting to see how the market reacts, but it definitely seems like that is where we are heading if everything stays the same, right? If we don't get any big changes on Russia-Ukraine, big changes on the current economic policy from Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, it looks like everything is aiming for a little bit more slippage back down to some of these support levels. 42.50 on the ES and 13,000 on the NASDAQ. So that's my review, guys, for the overall market. You can come to the pre-market live streams where we do this every single morning to get a better updated view. But if I'm looking at this on a Sunday without any further analysis, any further data, everything is aiming for downside, 20 SMA rejections, and we have a support level down below that I believe that we are going to want to test to see if there is support at that level. So with that said, let's now go ahead and jump into the 3 stocks on the tech sector that if this trend continues, there should be more downside. I've been playing these stocks all last week, and I'm going to continue to look to play them into next week. All right, guys, so the first stock here is Roku, and Roku, we all know, has been a very, very weak stock. It has been sold off from $490 a share down to around $120. That is just about, if we take out our tool, that is just about a 75% drop on the stock, which is crazy, and it even looks like there could be more downside. If there is weakness on tech, there should be weakness on Roku. The stocks that I'm going to show you guys are stocks that are weak, stocks that will move lower, probably even further than the overall NASDAQ market. There's stocks like Apple, stocks like Microsoft, like Tesla, like Google that have held their own, which are a little bit stronger than the overall market. And then there are stocks like we're going to look at like Roku and the others that we're going to name here that are overextended to the downside and should have overextended reactions if the NASDAQ falls further. So Roku, I played this all last week, took 100% trade, and I'm still holding 4 contracts into next week. I'm looking to see if we get more downside here. Now, why do I believe there could be more downside? The first reason is because of the overall tech sector. I think the tech sector will probably come down to that 13,000, and if it does, I'm looking at this very clean rejection on Roku that I've talked about quite a bit in the Discord chat, as well as on some of my videos here on the channel. So, previous support turned into resistance beautifully. 20 SMA rejected this once again, and I'm looking to see if Roku comes back down towards this 102 level next week. This will be a stock that overextends to the downside if there is more weakness on the tech sector. So that is Roku, guys. This is a stock that on the daily chart looks really nice for a rejection. I'm going to continue to watch this to the downside into next week. The second one is Square. You guys know Square looks very similar. I talked about this in one of my videos, and this is another stock that if we zoom out has been sold off heavily since the highs. Overreactions to the downside, down about 70%. Since the highs of around $289, a stock that is just not loved right now, and any further downside on tech, I believe it will continue. You guys can see last week on earnings, we pushed into a heavy resistance level. We were not able to break through. That is showing me signs of much more weakness ahead. You guys can see rejection here, 50 SMA rejection. We closed below the 20 on Friday, and if you look at the gap that is here on Square from earnings, there is a potential gap fill back down to $95 a share. If you guys caught this last week, congratulations. I know a lot of you guys in the chat killed it on Square. I missed out on this one. Unfortunately, I got in on Zoom, on Roku, on SE. I missed out on this one, but this looks great for a potential gap fill back to 95. If the trend continues, as I said, this is all very contingent on the fact of the NASDAQ continuing to the downside, everything staying as it was last week. I believe Square will have downside as well. This is a stock that is just getting sold into. It looks like it wants to fill this gap back to 95, and I would absolutely be watching this into next week. The third one that we're going to look at is SE. SE is a stock that is getting very, very sold into. If we go out to the weekly chart, on the 3-year chart, you guys can see that this stock had an incredible 2020 move, which was very, very overextended. If we take it from these lows to the highs, it went up about 1,000%, guys. 1,000% move on SE, a stock that is just getting sold into now. And if we look at this chart on the weekly chart, last week's downside volume was the largest volume that we have seen on this stock, I believe, in the history of its name. If we go out and get max available time, we are going to see that last week's volume to the downside was the largest volume that this stock has had in a single week in the history of its name. So, knowing that and not seeing any support here on the weekly chart until around this previous high of $52, I believe that this stock has some extreme downside. I am in some puts. I'm up about $800 on them right now from last week. I know a lot of you guys in the chat are as well, and I am looking for some more downside into next week. I do not see how, after a monster week to the downside with the biggest volume in the stock's history, that we see much strength. So we could get a little bit of a sympathy bounce. That's always possible. But as long as this stock continues to move lower, I do not see any support here on the left side until around $52. When a stock moves up like this, as you guys can see in the past, when a stock moves this quickly to the upside, it is very difficult to find support. We broke below a very key $100 level here last week. We closed at $96 last week, and it's looking like we could potentially touch that 52. Now, I know that is a very advantageous price target and a lot more downside to be had, but looking at the chart, trusting the technicals, I just do not see anything here to warrant support. If I put a box here, if we look at these candles here from the weekly chart, this was virtually straight up. Over 5 to 6 weeks, we went vertically. And I just don't think there could be support in that area. So I am watching for more downside into next week on SE, guys. I think there could be more. If we look at the daily chart, we can see that same 20 SMA trend is occurring. 20 SMA rejection, 20 SMA rejection, 20 SMA rejection once again and again last week. Look at this downside. We broke below a very key level here, right around 110, 120, and it looks like there could be some more room here. So this is the third one I would watch. Square, Roku, and SC are my top 3 for downside next week. As long as the tech sector continues lower, those are the ones that I would keep an eye out for. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the energy sector, one of the only sectors that is continuously moving higher. All right, guys, here's the XLE, the energy ETF. You can see a monster breakout last week on the back of just an increasing oil price that has not stopped. So, huge breakout last week, and I don't think this slows down until oil slows down. So, just continue to watch the /CL, which is the oil futures. This is the oil futures, and you can see we have a huge push last week on oil, over $100 a barrel, now up to around $115. If that continues next week, this XLE sector should continue as well. And you can see just a monster breakout over this $70 level. And the biggest stocks in this sector are 2 names. The XOM, which is ExxonMobil. That's one of the biggest names in this sector. Right here, you guys can see another very similar breakout here above this previous high. Right here around $83. Breakout above that level, up to $84 a barrel, or $84 a share, I'm sorry. So you can see if the XLE continues, if the /CL continues, there should be more upside on this name. This is one I would watch. If you're looking to trade that energy strength, XOM is the one to watch. The next one that I would be watching closely is CVX. This thing has gotten an insane reaction to oil prices. You can see since that oil push, we went over that 140 level, and look at the last 5 days on CVX, guys. All last week, almost 4% every single day to the upside. If that oil continues, this is definitely one to watch. Look at the volume, look at the upside. Of course, there could be some days of a little bit of cool off, a little bit of pullback, but as long as that oil trend continues, XOM, CVX are the 2 that I would be watching next week. You can also throw names like USO in there. USO, this is United States Oil Fund. See that upside. And then finally, XOY, Occidental Petroleum, another one that has continued to push with this oil upside. So guys, I'm not going to get too in-depth on the charts here on the energy sector because it is very overextended. In a traditional technical analysis forum, I would say this is extremely overextended and I would not be touching it. But with the overall macroeconomic reasons, such as oil increasing, these are definitely ones that can continue higher as long as you monitor the /CL with your trades. So if you are in these names, I would always have this /CL up, the oil futures. If this continues, if we continue to hear bad news out of Russia, Ukraine, if those tensions continue to increase and there's not news on overall supply increases, then I believe oil should continue here. I would watch XOM, CVX, USO, OXY, what other ones you guys are watching, but those are the main ones that I would keep an eye out for. So that's the second sector. That's another strong one that I would watch. Finally, let's talk about the consumer staples, the XLP. All right, guys, here's the daily chart on the XLP. These are consumer staples. So basically stocks that people need on an everyday basis. No matter what happens in the world, XLP stocks are going to be in need. So stocks like Procter & Gamble, stocks like Walmart, stocks like Costco. We can pull up the actual, we can pull up all of them. So if we go to Analyze tab and we type in XLP, we can see the biggest names in this sector. Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Costco, Pepsi. Walmart is down here somewhere, right here at number 8. Walmart, MO, that's Altria. Philip Morris is PM. So these names are stocks that are going to outperform in a market that is a little bit volatile and a little bit uncertain. And we can definitely see that for the most part. We have been falling since around January. We've been on this a little bit of a downtrend, but I am thinking that we are potentially seeing a flag breakout here on the daily chart. I'm not 100% certain, but looking at the technicals, it looks like we could be underway to some type of flag breakout here on the daily chart. If that happens, I think you are going to see upside on stocks like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, like Walmart, like Costco. And if that happens, I am definitely interested in either increasing my size on some of my swings or maybe even looking to add some more on the XLP name. So looking at the chart, just basing this off technicals, you have this very strong support that is held up at 73, and you have this little downtrend that has been forming over the last, say, 2 months. If we get a little bit of a flag breakout here and we get more upside on XLP, this could be a sector that you could take some trades in to protect yourself from the downside on technology. So the first name I want to show you guys for the XLP is Walmart, and I'm really liking what Walmart is doing right now. You guys can see I've been sort of focusing on this 135 level on Walmart. You can see every time we've came back down to it, we have held it as some type of support. And just last week on Friday, we had a huge day for Walmart, up about 2.5%, and it broke out of this downtrend. I'm really liking this, and I'm really interested in more upside out of this downtrend break. And that is sort of why I'm interested in the XLP as well. Because if we see a flag breakout here in Walmart, it could help the XLP move higher as well. And I'm thinking that there could be upside here. So Walmart broke over this flag, broke over a previous resistance here around 142, made a higher high on the daily chart. If I zoom in here, if I delete this trend line, you can see we made a higher high last week on Walmart. The next level that I'm watching is up here around 146. But if this trend continues, this little flag breakout on Walmart, I am liking XLP for more upside, and I'm definitely interested in Walmart. So as of right now, I am holding a Walmart call option. We'll see how that goes. It is back to nicely green. If we get up to 146, I will definitely be looking to take profits. So that's the first one I would watch, guys, Walmart. The second one is Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble has had a little bit of trouble lately, hasn't been falling as strong as Walmart. But what I'm liking here is this 100 SMA hold. You guys can see 100 SMA on the daily chart is holding very well. If we get back above 156, I will be looking for a potential push to the upside. So right there, that 156 level, you guys can see has been a little bit of a trouble. It's previous support that I do not want to see turn into resistance. However, I am holding this because I believe the XLP could have some upside, and if it does, Procter & Gamble is the largest in that sector, and there should be some upside here, maybe up to this 161. So watching P&G, watching for the potential XLP breakout. If that does, watch these stocks, guys. Other ones like Pepsi are holding up. Coca-Cola is looking pretty decent. You guys can see right here. And then finally, Costco had some earnings, and if we get that XLP move, there could be some push here on Costco as well. So final sector I would watch, guys, into next week, XLP, the consumer staples. To recap this video really quickly for you guys, technology still looks weak to me. Downside still looks to be there. The trend is still there to the downside. 20 SMA holding it down. Second, The energy sector, the strongest sector right now. If oil continues, watch CVX, watch XOM, watch those energy names. And finally, into next week, watch for the potential XLP breakout, the consumer staples, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Costco, Procter & Gamble, and Walmart. I like those names if we see that breakout. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some preparation into next week, gets you an idea of what's strong and what is weak. If you guys enjoyed today's video, press that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to come hang out in the Discord chat, check out the link down below. Thank you guys again. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.